Hello and welcome to Simplify TV, the web series and podcast for agencies, marketers, media buyers, and business owners. I'm David McBee. Our guest today is Matthew Kilmurray, founder and CEO of Intrinsic Digital, which has grown to $10 million in revenue and over 60 employees since its launch in 2019. Matthew has been a pioneer in digital marketing since the early 2000s, starting with optimizing websites for search engine rankings. Matthew continues to stay deeply involved in the industry as technology and tactics evolve. Intrinsic Digital works with over 1,000 apartment, hotel, and restaurant locations nationwide. Matthew, welcome back to Simplify TV.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me. I always love these conversations.
I do too, and you were a lot of fun the first time you came out. I remember we learned back then that Intrinsic Digital is a location based marketing company for apartments, hotels, and restaurants. And you shared with us why you are laser focused on those industry and how geofencing has been a powerful tactic for them. I just want to encourage our listeners, go back, find that. I think you were episode number 2, maybe, way back in the day. So I hope they'll check that out. But today, I want to hear how AI has transformed your agency. Tell me about that.
Well, David, congrats to you as well for the growth of this podcast. It's been pretty amazing to watch all of the guests, all of the conversations. It is hard to find good content. And so kudos to you on all of the growth as well.
Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And there has been a lot of growth because that must be an old bio because we're actually at 2,000 locations, which I actually love to hear that because like, wow, so there was, we basically doubled in size since, I last was on here. And I would say that AI has been a big piece to that because when it comes to when AI first launched last year, I knew right away that it was going to have like impact in marketing first. It was going to take a while for it to really matriculate into some of the more regulated areas like finance and healthcare and that kind of stuff. But from like a content perspective, I knew that it was going to have like an immediate impact on what we're doing in marketing. And I'll say this, it has not reduced staff in any way. It's actually only added to our staffing because we need people who can utilize the technology in the right way. So it is a bit of a different mindset. But it's just accelerated everything that we've done. And I think that it has impacted local businesses more than anyone else. And what do I mean by that? So on a national scale, a big brand like Hilton, they can invest in amazing video and advertising campaigns, all the different variations, and really come up with like an entire robust campaign. And they want to have campaign after campaign after campaign. But if you think about it at the local level, budgets are limited. Typically, an average client's got a couple $100s a month that they can put towards creative. It's not a ton, right? Because you're operating a single unit, and you can hopefully pull in some of the brand creative, but to localize it to make it uniquely your own is just not something that the individual local marketer can typically do. But with AI, it's leveled the playing field. And that's what I absolutely love about it. From the very beginning, it has allowed an individual location in Wichita to have, as much creative power as the national brand.
I remember last year you said that if you were working with, say, 3 Mexican restaurants in a city, that you would have 3 different creatives for each of those. Is even though they're all in the same city, you wanted to say this one's across from the mall or whatever it was. I imagine that was pretty cumbersome to do manually, and is AI helping with that?
Oh my gosh, it has absolutely revolutionized our the way that we do creative. So yes, we were using manual tools. We'll talk about graphics for a second. So, we had really talented people essentially opening up creative, making a tweak, closing it, re-uploading it, right? And so those amazing, talented people can now utilize AI to make changes on the fly. It can resize. It can, take essentially variations of localized content and, reword it, put it in multiple formats. And so their time now is spent on updating the templates themselves, adding in more custom graphics. So it's really like increase the level of output. So the creative looks better, but it's also still faster. And that localized content is so important because if you think about the experience as a user, we're all so used to seeing, these generic kind of national ads, right? Um, when I'm on my phone, it's like Geico ad after State Farm ad after, right? But when you drive down the highway and you see like Paul, the local State Farm guy, and he bought a billboard, you recognize that. And it's the same with display ads. If you can localize the content for that individual location that I've seen a couple times, it's right down the road from me. It elevates them in ways that are show up in the data.
Yeah, and I think one of the things Simplify brags about is how localized you can advertise. You can run a TV commercial now at the zip code level, whereas before you were limited by cable zones or DMAs or whatever. And if you pair that conversation with what you're saying, make a separate ad for each individual location that's specific to it. That's kind of the 1-2 punch, right?
It really is. And talking about video, that's an area that we've moved into heavily. It's so impactful, 15, 30-second, unskippable commercials on TV. It really is. It feels a lot like SEO felt like in the early days when all these search engines were popping up and you could get people on. And there was just this all this excitement around how it was going to impact local businesses and have a immediate kind of change in their business in terms of their marketing. Feels
Do you have
the
any
same
examples?
way.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it feels the same way with streaming TV. There's still a lot of options out there. There hasn't been a ton of consolidation yet, and pricing is still very affordable. It's very accessible. It's like a perfect time if you're a local business or if you are a large company with lots of locations. Now's the time to get on streaming TV. Eventually, in the search engine world, everything consolidated to Google, and now cost per click is extremely high, and we all know where that went. I don't know if the same will happen in streaming TV, but right now there's a lot of option, a lot of competition, and so there's a lot of inventory, and pricing is pretty low. And so with video itself, we had a production team, so we would have to send it out to a copywriter. They would have to write the script. Then we would send it to the client, get approval on that. Then we would send it to a voiceover artist who would do the voiceover. Then we would send it to a production team. And then we would send it to the client. And if the client had any major changes, it would go back to the copywriter, back to the voiceover artist, back to the production team. This would all take like 20 business days.
You're killing me. It sounds so painful.
It was painful, especially because the video is a barrier to entry to the advertising. And so we were charging less than $500 for a 15 or 30-second video because we wanted them to be able to advertise on streaming TV. So now with AI, we've built an integration with OpenAI. We plug in the website, it scrapes the whole website, it pulls in all the images, all the text, and it writes the script. It pulls together all the images. It has a synthetic voiceover, matches it with music, and it's amazing. I mean, what it can do within just a few minutes is mind blowing. I was recently speaking at NAA, the National Apartment Association, and was kind of introducing this to the entire audience. And so I got a volunteer. I said, "All right, somebody be a volunteer for me. Tell me a property that you're working with that has a particular marketing challenge, and we're going to make a video during this presentation." So somebody raised their hand. They gave the name of the property, the website address, a unique marketing challenge. So I had somebody on the side run it through AI. We finished our presentation in terms of what video can do in the apartment world. And then we showed a completed 30-second video to the entire audience, and their minds were just blown that it could be done that fast.
That is so clever and so smart. I assume you maybe even use this to prospect businesses you haven't sold yet.
That's a great idea. We haven't. We've been so busy putting it together and using it for our clients, but to actually send a prospective client, hey, we went ahead and just made a video for one of your apartment communities. It's yours. You can use it.
Well, back in the day when I sold Yellow Pages, my favorite thing to do was to create a spec ad, tape it in the book, show it, open it up, and they'd go, "Oh, I want that ad." And half the sale was done right there because they saw the creatives. So I'm imagining a world where you say, "Look at this commercial I just made for you," and they just have to buy it now, right?
They have to buy it now, and and it performs extremely well. So one of the things that we noticed in that long process before is that most clients would have one video done initially, and they'd be running the same commercial for like forever. And looking through all the data, we discovered that creative fatigue sets in around the 21-day mark and really drops off around the 30-day mark. And so we stopped doing one-time commercials for clients. We said essentially, hey, we want your campaigns to perform well, and they're not going to perform well if we're running the same commercial for 6 months to a year. So now all we do is monthly creative. We still keep it extremely affordable. It's $95 per location per month, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it's with AI, we've been able to really hone down the process with templates. So we're not making major changes to templates, but just the messaging and the images and voiceover artists, and updating it every month. And so at this point, we're doing about 1,300 new commercials each month for our client, and we're just running them through. And it's so fun to see, and I absolutely love it.
Well, that sounds kind of brilliant to me. And I'm sure your advertisers love having a brand new, fresh creative every month. That's super cool. All right, before I let you go, I was going to ask you about a podcast or a book, but we're a little over on time. So instead, I want to ask you this general question. Do you think that local digital marketing is being fully utilized by local businesses?
No, not at all. And I would say for any of the agency owners out there, yes, landing that national contract is great. But the market for local digital advertising is 100 times bigger than the national market. And it needs really smart, dedicated people to help local advertisers solve their needs. So come on board. It's great.
Yeah, I'm a local guy too. Again, my old Yellow Pages days make me just love working with those local business owners. Matthew, what's the best way for viewers to reach you if they want to get in touch?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. Would love to chat with you and talk shop anytime.
All right. Thank you so much for being my guest on Simplify TV.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate it.
And thank you guys for watching Simplify TV. Please help us out with a like, a comment, a review, a share, all those things. And be sure and follow or subscribe to be informed about our new episodes. We are sponsored by Simplify, helping to maximize relevance and multiply results with our industry-leading media buying and workflow solutions. For more information, visit simply.fi. Thanks for joining us today. I'm David McBee. Be awesome, and we'll see you next time.